This time, a quake measuring 6.9 on the Richter scale brought California to its knees.
Don't expect services for 72 hours, okay? Prepare yourself for nightfall. You have about 1 hour of light left. Prepare for aftershocks. Make sure your building is sound enough to go back inside.
But the citizens of California, at least on the surface, don't seem to fear another quake.
I loved earthquakes. That never bothered me. I remember being a kid and I'd be like in my bed going, and I loved it.
Some people are prepared. You know, some people have water, some people have food, most people don't. You know, just like any place in the world, they just think it won't happen to them.
Earthquake prediction is not going to happen. It's a lie. Don't believe in it.
Spider-Man is not afraid of earthquakes.
Neither is Wonder Woman.
Because she has an invisible jet that we jump into when they happen. But all regular people should be very afraid of them.
That another massive earthquake will strike the region is not in doubt. The question is, can it be predicted, sparing human life? Some in California think it can. Jim Birkeland claims to have been predicting earthquakes for over 30 years. In 1989, in a newspaper interview, he did successfully predict the quake in San Francisco. It's a measure of the controversial nature of the science that as a consequence, he was temporarily suspended from his job as a state-employed geologist. He's now retired and runs an earthquake prediction website.
The last thing I thought I'd ever be doing was trying to predict quakes. But then I read an article in the newspaper on the 8th of January in 1974 that we might expect flood tides due to an unusual astronomical alignment. And it just suddenly clicked in my head that, what are they talking about? If the high tides are the result of the full moon and the closest approach of the moon and the Earth, at the same time as the closest approach of the Earth and the Sun, which happens in early January, well, all of these forces that raise the ocean waters might well be causing distortion of the solid Earth and cause the fault lines that might be under stress, ready to fail. It'd just be the feather that breaks their back.
Birkeland's study of tides helped him come up with his quake prediction theory. The gravity of the sun and that of the moon is known to pull on the Earth's oceans, causing the water to rise and fall in what we call tides. The highest rise in tides, also known as spring tides, occur at the twice-monthly alignment of the sun, moon, and Earth, when the moon is either full or new. Birkeland claims to have noticed that this is also when earthquakes occur. The same force which causes the tides could be tugging at the Earth's crust, causing it to rupture. So to predict earthquakes, Birkeland simply studies timetables. Once again, the Southern California Earthquake Center takes issue with the theory.
There is the gravitational effects that the sun, the moon, and the planets exert on the Earth, and this does change the stress in the crust and does have a small effect on earthquakes, which can be measured. But that very small effect does not give us the ability to predict large earthquakes.
But Birkeland doesn't just study timetables. Bizarrely, he checks local newspapers for reports of lost pets, and he's being serious.
With the World Series quake, I had known at the start of the year that the week of October 14th to 21st, we were going to have the highest tidal force in 3 years. And I'd alerted everybody to it in my prediction list. And but I didn't know how big it would be. I said it would be a 3.5 to 5.5. And then 3 weeks before the quake, unprecedented numbers of missing animals occurred Instead of 4 or 5 missing cat ads, there were 27. Instead of 15 missing dog ads, there were 57. These numbers were impossible. They were 3 or 4 times what I'd ever seen.
Well, I could be a devil's advocate in this situation because that occurs oftentimes after the 4th of July when everybody fires off fireworks. And so, yes, that can happen, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean only during earthquakes, because there are other situations where animals exhibit anxiety, fear, and concern for their own well-being, and they respond accordingly to those situations too.
Birkeland is by no means alone in believing that runaway animals are earthquake predictors. In the Asian tsunami of December 2004, the sea in Sri Lanka swept inland for 3 kilometers, inundating the Yala National Wildlife Park. But while many tourists drowned, very few dead animals were found. There's a popular theory that animals sense vibrations which are not apparent to humans and which alert them to the imminence of the quake, causing them to run away from it. But the seismologists are skeptical.
They're not going to be predictable by animals that are sensitive to small ground motions, because the instruments which are sensitive to even smaller ground motions do not see anything before an earthquake. We have instruments that are capable of recording small vibrations that are of almost atomic dimensions, so small that you could never detect them as a human. We have many such instruments that we have put around places in advance of earthquakes, and we detect nothing that will tell us that an earthquake is about to happen, a large earthquake is about to happen.
Back in India, earthquake chasers Drs. Rao and Venkatnathan are camped out in the Himalayas, waiting for their predicted earthquake. It may seem eccentric to be moving into an area where an earthquake is imminent, but the Tremor team is passionate about their theory.
We have chosen this location because the epicenter is towards north in this direction, and we are about 26.8 kilometers away from that. And we have chosen this because the road ends somewhere there, and going any further is not practically possible. We have set up a rudimentary lab here, and what we have here is a set of delicately balanced stones, and in the event of an earthquake, these are going to tumble down.
Not exactly a seismograph, more a visual aid for the benefit of the camera.
We have a magnetic compass here, which is now showing north, and if there's going to be a tremor, then this guy is going to swing very madly. We also have curves, and in the event of a quake or tremors, now these are going to react. And what their abnormal behavior is going to be, that we're going to watch out for. We also have some animals on the slopes behind me, and we're also going to watch out for bird behavior, any kind of abnormal bird behavior. As you can see behind me, there are a couple of landslide scars, and if there's going to be an earthquake, well, who knows how many more are going to come down. We have also chosen this place because it's basically a relatively safer place, because we have a stream flowing here, and if something is going to tumble down, we are safe.
But the authorities haven't informed the inhabitants about the predicted quake. In this village, about 25 kilometers from the believed epicenter, life continues at an unhurried pace. The Tremor team's predicted quake isn't due till 4:14 p.m. the next day, but they've decided to open their triggering time window a day in advance. Minutes away from the start of the countdown, the Tremor team is visibly nervous.
Just about 4:13, just one more minute to go for the 24-hour countdown, and it's a lot of eagerness and expectation that we are waiting here, and the countdown is just about to begin. So it's going to be a continuous watch from this moment.
Yeah, of course.
Quake magnitude is measured by Charles Richter's Richter scale since 1935. An earthquake measuring 3.5 on the scale is referred to as a light intensity quake and is equivalent to 73 tons of TNT explosives. A moderate quake measuring 5 on the scale has an intensity of 32,000 tons of TNT, which has more than double that of the little boy atom bomb detonated over Hiroshima that yielded a modest 13,000 tons. The tremor team's reading of a 6.5 quake in the Himalayas could yield 5 million tons of TNT, 384 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. It's been an hour since the countdown began. The compass needle remains undisturbed.
Start eating.
Yeah? Welcome to dinner.
I am going to eat only fruits.
Right?
Today in fasting.
Fasting?
Yeah.
In a nearby village, there's festivity in the air. The local goddess is being feted by villagers with dancing and singing and making requests. The people here have no idea of a possible imminent quake.